Welcome to Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods. I'm your host, Corey Nathan. This is where we get to speak with the brilliant and creative people who make the greatest coming attractions, promos, movie posters, digital campaigns of all time. This program is brought to you by the Golden Trailer Awards and by Mesa Wealth Management, my pal George Mesa. And today I am so pleased to be joined by the president at the shop. That's it. That's all we got. We are joined by the founder and the prez of the shop. Actually, his name is Jordan Hayman, and he's my longtime pal. Jordan, how you doing, buddy? It's good to see you.
I'm great. Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. It's just actually I started to mention this before we hit record. It's just good to hang out with you, man. Like we've known each other for quite some time, and it's just good to see you.
Yeah, man. It's been a long time. I remember when I first met you. I was working at Alkemi Entertainment, and you called and you said, "Hey, can we get a coffee?" And I walked down the street to Stir Crazy, and I introduced myself to you, and here we are. It's been like 20 something years since then.
No, it can't be.
Yeah, I know.
So
Crazy, right?
that's actually a good place to start. Or even further back, because I do remember you telling me you weren't that far removed from basically wearing every hat you could working for the Lakers. But let's go back a little bit further. You went to CSUN, and CSUN is a little bit under the radar, but they have a really strong film department. Was that what you were going for when you went there?
I wish I could say yes. I thought I wanted to go into radio, and I was
Mm.
studying radio production. And, I got an internship at Fox Sports. And before you knew it, there was a PA position available. And I asked my boss if I could have the job, and they gave it to me. And that's how I got started.
So I got to ask you, I don't know if the timelines are right, but I have this other show that I do called East Meets West Sports. And my co host is a guy named Rick Garcia. Now, Rick ended up being an anchor at CBS News, but before that, he was a sports journalist. I think he was at Fox Sports. So I don't know if you crossed paths when you were there. It was a long time ago. So
I worked in the promo department. So I didn't know him, but it's very possible that we were there at the same time. I was hanging out with all the promo people.
actually, I knew that you guys didn't work together. I was just trying to get a shameless plug in for East Eats Meets West Sports. No, I'm just kidding.
Meets what?
Actually, it's a ton of fun. So, and I see that like these days, you've been like over the last couple of years, you've been getting into some sports program, but we'll get into that. So you did the Fox Sports thing, then you went to Big Fox. I was curious if my timing is correct. There were some pretty cool people working on the Big Fox side. Was that
Yeah.
like Rick Squire's time or
Yep.
Sandy Grushow, those
Yep.
guys?
Yep. Yep.
Some
I
pretty
worked
high level
directly.
folks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I worked for Howard Schneider.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
Howard Schneider, and it's when Mikey V was doing Mike Valerio was doing special projects.
Yeah, I worked in a department called Area 21, which eventually became Special Ops.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we did all the interstitials and the end credits, and it was like an amazing education I got there in promo, and I absolutely loved it. Like I knew then that I wanted to do this for the rest of my life.
So what was it like? First of all, tell me all that you were actually doing. Like, what was the day to day? But then, what was it that a light bulb went off for you?
Well, I mean, if you want to go back even further, I mean, and you know this, my father was in the industry, and when I was growing up, my dad worked for Foot Cone and Belding, and he was an executive doing commercials,
Yeah,
Smokey the Bear, California Raisins, Universal Studios Tour, which was really, really cool, but it didn't interest me that much. And
yeah.
then around the time I was a senior in high school, he went to go work for Tony Seiniger.
Oh, right. Wait, I thought he was running Kaleidoscope at one point, wasn't he?
At the end of his career.
Okay, okay, but yeah, so he's working with Tony. Oh, that's interesting. I never I mean, I've hung out with your dad here and there, but I never got to know the trajectory of his career. So that's pretty
Yeah,
cool. So that was your exposure to your first glimpse at like, oh, this thing is an industry.
that's when I was like, I have to do this. When I so he went over to Seiniger, and one summer they let me just run packages all over town. So I would sit in the lobby, and whenever they had a package that needed to go to a studio or a network, I would take it and I would drive it. I just drive around town. And I remember like Don LaFontaine would come in and he'd like pull up in a limousine. And
Yeah,
you'd get out of the car, he'd walk in, and then he'd walk out like 10 minutes later. And I was like, who the fuck is that guy?
that's right. That's right.
That was
So for
Don
folks who
LaFontaine.
don't
And I was
know,
like,
Don LaFontaine is the voice. Like he's the originator. There's a bunch of guys who do it really, and women now who do it really well too. But Don LaFontaine was the man. Like he was the voice of every. He was the inner world guy.
in a
So that's
world.
pretty cool.
Yeah, and at that time I was like, oh my God, like this is a career.
Yeah,
I wanted to be him.
yeah.
But I saw what they were doing at Seiniger and I was like, this is so cool. Like I love movies, I love TV. There's a job where I can just like watch that stuff and then make little 2.5 minute trailers. I'm in.
That's awesome. That's
That's
awesome.
what,
And he probably at that time, if my timing is right, he probably had some of the best movie poster designers of all time, like Dawn, who was I think she was titled by him at the time, but who became Dawn Bailey and Clive Bailey, and like just some of the best creatives on all sides. And the AV team was pretty solid as well. So that's pretty cool. You got exposure to the best of the best over there.
I mean, I was in totally awe. I was in total awe of those people and and Tony too. I mean, Tony was, I mean, he was a maniac, but like, man, he had all these amazing people. They were doing incredible work. And I just thought, man, I'd love to do this for a living.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, my dad would say, don't do what I did for a living. Don't do it. It's too hard. It's too hard. Don't do it. And I just didn't listen to him.
Was it the hours or what? Why was he telling you not to?
Well, I mean, you know how things were back in the day. There was a little less civilized,
Yeah.
I mean, he also, he was also head of marketing for Savoy Pictures.
Mm.
He worked for some guys that were just really like, tough
Yeah.
and abusive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
I think it was that combined with, being a vendor, it's not it's not a guarantee. You have to have great relationships, you have to do great work. It's a grind. But I was ready for it. I
yeah,
wanted
that's awesome. That's
I
awesome.
wanted
So
it, even though he told me not to.
so by the time you got to school, there, I mean, you had some knowledge, and then those first couple gigs, like part of, I guess part of the secret was looking for the right internships, or maybe having the fortune of landing some pretty cool internships too, right?
Yeah, well, I worked for a company called Ad Delivery. I don't know if you
Okay.
remember them, but I
No.
would just run packages around town. And one of the places that I would go was Fox Sports. And I would deliver these packages to a guy named Ryan Campbell. And every single time I would go there, I would say, "Hey, man, can I get an internship? Can I?" And I think I just annoyed the shit out of him. I think I asked him about 50 times, and then he was like, "Just call this woman and talk to her." And I did, and they gave me the internship. And that was the best because I am a huge sports fan. I love sports and just being in that environment. I mean, all I did really was, they would have me watching, football, baseball, hockey, and just I would transcribe everything. I would just sit there and watch until my eyes bleed. And so I would know every shot, I would know every sound bite, and that was my formal training.
That's awesome. So a few questions about that. One is just about the work itself. I was talking to for again plug in the East Meets West Sports Show now, but I was talking to a fellow named Gary Apple, arguably one of the most successful broadcasters. He's a host on SNY now, but he had some time in LA. And I asked him, he's worn so many hats, calling games, but also running all the studio shows there, launching a network. And the one thing he said that was a secret to success was just doing the fucking work. He didn't put it that way. He was much more polite. But I mean, to this day, as many years as he has, as many reps as he's gotten in, there's no replacement for doing the damn work. So is that, I'm guessing that you're still, that's why you're still at the office. Like as we record this in the evening, the sun's going down and you're still there. I'm guessing that's still what keeps you going.
I mean, I love this stuff, man. Like, I don't think that you can be an owner of one of these companies if you don't absolutely love it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I love being here. I love the team that I've assembled, and it's fun for me to be here. you know?
So this is a serious question. So the way that you got the described getting that internship, are there similarities to you making the case to getting a new client today?
I mean, sure, if you like people who are super persistent and, and want to achieve their goals, I guess. I mean, I think it's more, it's more about like, the relationships that you have and the hard work that you put in,
Okay.
you
So
know?
so earning the right to cut on a new a campaign with a new client does have to do with relationships, whether it's your relationship or a combination of people that are on the team. So but those relationships depend on you getting an opportunity, delivering the goods time and time and time and time and time again, right?
Absolutely. I mean, look, you know, you can get a project, but if you don't absolutely crush it,
Yeah.
there's like no chance they're going to call you back,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And it's
Um,
also, it's a lot of things. It's the creativity, it's the speed, it's the customer service. Also because I've worked on both sides of the business, I know what I wanted as a client, and I
mhm.
try and deliver that every time.
Right.
You know,
Right. I want to go back. There was another stop in your career. We mentioned it briefly with the Lakers. Now, if I remember correctly, you were wearing like every hat. You were designing, you were cutting, you were right, you were producing. Like, am I right? Do I remember that correctly?
yes, you do. I was working at Fox Entertainment, and this guy that I had grown up with, Ian Levitt, he was the biggest Lakers fan in the history of Lakers, and he became the director of operations for the Lakers. And when I was working at Fox, he called me and said, "Hey, can you cut a video for the Jumbotron?" And I was like, "Sure, no problem." So I was working at Fox during the day, and then I was cutting at night. And then it just got to a point where I was doing so much. And I mean, I was very young. I had a lot of energy, but like it was too much. So I went to him and I said, if you can just pay me what I'm making with Fox, I'll go work for the Lakers.
Mm,
And then when I got there, yeah, I was like a one-man band. I would write, produce, edit, shoot. I did everything. And I had like they gave me like a teeny little office on the corner of the Staples Center
yeah.
with a Final Cut Pro. And by the way, I had never edited anything before.
Oh, wow. So
And they
how did you figure your way around Final Cut?
Well, because I was working in an edit bay for 6 years at Fox. So I would
Okay.
I would be in the bay with the editors, and I saw what they were doing, and I just thought to myself, I can do this. And I bought Final Cut for Dummies, and I read it.
Perfect.
And then my first week with the Lakers had just won the championship, and they needed me to cut a video for opening night. And I just remember looking at the timeline with nothing on it, and I just thought I was going to puke. And then I start putting stuff on the timeline and getting the music going, and all of a sudden, like, I made my first video, and it turned out pretty good, and it played in front of 18,997 opening night, and it was amazing.
That's really cool. And it was so yeah, they just won the championship, so it was during a heyday. So working on some really cool stuff. How did you develop a sense of some people have a sense of timing, some people have a sense of sound, some people have a sense of design. Not a lot of people have enough of a sense of all of that to be able to produce the kind of stuff that you were doing. How'd you put all that together?
Well, I mean, listen, you've had so many legends on this show, so many editorial legends. I am not that in any way, shape, or form. I just learned from being in the edit bay, and I learned from just being around the industry my whole life. And the videos I cut were good. They weren't phenomenal. They
Yeah,
weren't like the stuff we cut at the shop,
yeah.
but they were good enough. And it was back in 2001, 2002, 2003.
There is something to be said for being the guy that can wear a number of hats really competently. Like it's one thing to be, the right-handed pitcher, that comes in the ninth, and that's his specialty. It's another thing to be the shortstop, and that's your thing. It's another thing to be the first baseman who hits 40 home runs. But if you're a guy that can play on the dirt and the grass, and you know how to drive in a run from second base with two outs, like that's the equivalent of what you were doing. You could be counted on to wear all those different hats, so there's something to be said for that.
I think I just have this strange belief that I can do anything. I don't know why I feel that way, but a lot of the stuff that I did for the Lakers, I had never done before. And they took a chance on me because I was so passionate and I'm from LA and my boss was like one of my best friends, this guy that I grew up with. I knew him my entire life and we did it together.
Yeah.
We did this stuff together. And then it made it a lot easier that Shaq really took a liking to me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, my boss had told him, hey, I'm hiring this guy to come in and make videos. And Shaq was like, let's go. Let's make some fucking videos.
That's awesome.
Because that's the kind of guy he is. He just wants to have fun and and make videos. And that's what we did.
Yeah, that's great, man. Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods is brought to you by the Golden Trailer Awards. For folks who are just starting to get plugged in, the GTAs is an unconventional ceremony that honors excellence in feature film trailers, teasers, and movie marketing. Or as some folks like to think of it, it's the award ceremony for the short attention span. We all just celebrated the 25th Golden Trailer Awards. So, would that be the Silver Golden Trailer Awards? Either way, it was a terrific show. Monica and Evie do such a wonderful job putting it together. Tons of fun, so much awesome work across the board. And mostly, it was just great to be together as a community. So keep an eye out for a number of exciting developments over the next year. Just make sure to stay plugged in at goldentrailer.com for a ton of exciting developments. That's goldentrailer.com. You did. So, as you mentioned, we met when you were over at Alkemi. Now, Jonesy had already moved on from there, right? Michael Jones.
Yes, Michael Jones was gone. Allison Jones was still there.
So,
So,
and there was Daddario was still there. Like, there were some talented
yeah,
people there at the time, right?
so many talented people. Daddario, Pete Demiri, Paul Falcone.
Oh, that's right, Pete.
You know, um, I worked for Ed Glass and Barry Shore. Ed
Yeah.
Glass was like my mentor. He taught me so much, and he showed me how to like be like a creative executive.
Oh, how so? What do you mean by that?
Well, he put me front and center with all of his clients and just said, here, service them. I'll show you what to do. I'll show you how to talk to them. I'll show you how to write emails to them. And he took me under his wing and he showed me the way. And then after several months, he was just like, okay, you get it. And he let me loose.
Oh, wow. So he just kind of threw you in the deep end, huh?
He threw me in the deep end, but I was ready. I wanted to do it. I was actually, they hired me to be, remember Kenji
Oh,
Tealstrom?
yeah, Kenji Tealson. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
he
was
had
his,
or he had been a client on at Sony, right?
yes.
So you probably learned a lot from him as well.
I learned a ton from him. I came in as his assistant, and after 3 months, Allison Jones left, and they kind of put me in her slot. She was Ed's right hand, and she was doing all the work, and then it was me.
How about that? And
Yeah,
then the chapter that I forgot is that you spent some time with Skip. Now Skip's been on the program a couple times now, but I'd love for somebody who worked with him. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about the work because at Alkemi and at Skip, you were working on some pretty cool theatrical stuff, which is very different than Fox Sports and what you were doing at Staples. So I want to talk about that, but first, I just want to talk a little bit about Skip. What do you think it is, or uh, the things that what makes him so different and so special?
I mean, the guy is an innovator, He was doing things that nobody else was doing at the time. I mean, he was moving picture around before people were doing that. He was doing like layers and layers of video and his sound editing was incredible and he's just I mean, you know, he was a genius,
Yeah, yeah,
you
and
know.
and and in terms of the theatrical, um, how difficult is or how different is it from the stuff that you were cutting your teeth on versus the stuff that you got an introduction to at Alchemy, and then I mean you worked on some pretty cool titles with Skip, right?
Very, yeah. We worked on some really cool stuff. They would always bring Skip in, if they were having a problem with something,
Yeah.
or if they had like if anything that was Ridley Scott, would come to us. And man, it was a lot different. It was a lot different. I mean, we were on fiber all the time, and we would cut 100 different things. At Alchemy, we would do, we were working on smaller titles, more independent stuff. As a matter of fact, us and AV Squad were pretty much working on all the same stuff at the time.
Oh, wow.
They were very small, and we
Yeah.
were very small, and we were both working on like indie theatrical. And we'd be working on like The Prestige or like Truman Capote,
Yeah.
and that stuff was really creative and really fun, but it wasn't like a serious grind like working on Prometheus, I mean, that something like that, we're just in the bay all the time, and we're Tony Sella's calling, and we're doing notes on the fly, and Skippy, do the do this and that, and you know it was really exciting. It was really exciting. I remember the first, we got the finish on Prometheus, and I remember being in the room with Skip, and Tony Sella was on the phone, and he approved it, and it was just like, wow,
I've been
that
dying to
was
get Sella on
incredible.
this program, but I don't know. Like, we'd have to give the listeners a lesson in Celanese. Like, he has his own way of communicating.
Yes, yes, he
Skippy, like
does.
nobody calls him Skippy. I'm
Skippy
like,
Dippy. Hey,
it's so
Skippy.
funny. So I got to ask you. So were you more nervous the first time you met Shaq or the first time you met Ridley Scott?
I never met Ridley Scott.
Oh, okay, all
Never
right.
got to meet Ridley Scott, but I was pretty nervous when I met Shaq, but he made me really comfortable very quickly because, you know, uh, he had introduced me as the guy who's going to be doing these videos for the Lakers, and I had made this script for him because we wanted to do he had an injury, and we wanted to do a comeback video because he missed several games at the beginning of the season, so we came up with this idea to do like a Rocky training video,
Oh,
and we wrote out all these different skits for him, and I handed him the script, and he took one look and he said, let's go. He just like looked at it, threw it away, and was like, roll it, let's go.
oh, he was good to go. He just was
He
it
was so good to
improvised or
go.
he
He
knew the.
he well, he improvised. We gave him props. Like, we got like an entire side of beef. And he's like, he's boxing with the beef, and we got this little like rubber chicken on a stick, and Derek Fisher's like running around and he's chasing the chicken. It was like silly. We were like, we cracked a bunch of eggs into like a cup, and then cut to, he was drinking like lemonade or something, but
Yeah.
like we just made it look like he was training to come back in the Rocky way, and that was him, man. He didn't need a script. He did whatever he wanted, and everything he did was gold because he's hilarious, and he's very just down to earth. He's like a cool dude, you
Oh,
know.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So that time at Skip, and then you were on the client side too. That must have been, I mean, talk about different. How how were you able to learn what you needed to? Because it's a very different role when you were over at Lifetime.
Yeah, in 2008, another headhunter called me, not you.
I'm
Uh,
jealous. There's no other headhunters. What are you talking about?
I
No, I'm
know,
just
I
kidding.
know. I can't remember his name, but
No, no, no.
they
There's actually, in all seriousness, there have been some people I've met along the way that did a really good job. Pamela Robinson was really the standard, especially for some of those executive jobs back in the day. I forgot the fellow's name. He ended up working in-house at Warner for a long time. I
Yes,
think
Steve
that's the guy.
Spector. Steve Spector.
Spectre, yeah,
Steve
really
Spector.
super nice guy. I always got along really well with Steven. We compared notes. I mean, we were competitors at times, but I think like a lot of people in the business today, we were friendly competitors, and we ended up rooting for each other because we didn't really compete directly too often.
Well,
But
both of you
I
guys
had a
were
lot of
nice
respect for
guys.
him. So
Yeah. He's a good dude. And he said, are you interested in working at Lifetime? And I was like, I mean, not really, but because I mean, I didn't watch Lifetime.
yeah,
That wasn't, like, that wasn't what I sought out.
yeah.
But it was 2008. And, Alchemy was, we were struggling. We weren't doing that great. And so I took the interview and I went over there, and it was, have you heard of Bob and Lew?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
It's not Lou and Bob, by the way. It's
No, it's
Bob
not
and
Lou and
Lou.
Bob. It's
And
Bob and Lew and this guy, Anthony Armanese.
oh yeah, Anthony spent a good stretch at Buddha and helped build their very much like what you did at AV Squad, built a whole broadcast, and now he's over at Concept. I mean, another legacy. That dude's one of the smartest guys in the business I know. It must have been great working with Anthony.
Yeah, well, well, let me go back to the interview. So, it's 2008. I'm at Lifetime, and I walk in, and there's Anthony. And I was like, am I in the right place?
Yeah.
And I sat down and I started talking to him, and we started talking about trailers, and I told him about Alchemy and what I was doing, and then we started talking about football. And I told him that I was a Chicago Bears fan, and the only reason I'm a Chicago Bears fan is because my family's from Chicago, and in '85, they were doing the Super Bowl shuffle, and I was with my family. I was like, this is the greatest. So I became a Bears fan, and as soon as I said that, I got the job.
Oh, is
Like,
that right?
I mean, well, Anthony's the biggest, he's the biggest Chicago Bears fan you've ever met.
How about that? I did.
The guy goes to like 5 games a year. It's
Oh,
incredible.
oh, really?
Yeah, he loves the Chicago Bears. So we hit it off immediately, and Bob and Lew interviewed me, and when they interviewed me, they showed me a spot that they were working on, and they asked me for my opinion, and I tore the spot up. I just tore it up. And they were like, "We respect you.
That's
Like,
cool.
thank you for being honest with us." Because I
That
guess maybe it's other people don't feel as comfortable like saying exactly what they think, and I don't really have that problem. I just say what I think.
did you get a sense that they were looking for like the candid feedback?
Absolutely. They were looking for candid feedback, and they were looking for someone who had experience in the trailer world, because
Okay.
my job there was to market all of the movies. That's what I did. I worked on the movies mainly.
Okay.
Um, And yeah, I mean, like I learned on the fly, like everything else. I didn't know how to be a creative director. I had done a lot of creative work, and I worked for Ed, and he had shown me a lot of different things, and I worked with all these great editors at Alchemy, and they were so talented. So like literally the first thing I did was call Alchemy. I called them and I was like, I need you guys to cut on something for me. And then I called my dad and I said, who are the other trailer shops in town that I should be calling? And he gave me AV Squad, he gave me Intralink and Create, and I just called all those guys. I called Anthony Goldschmidt and said, "Hey, you interested in working on some Lifetime stuff?" And he was like, "Great, why don't you, come over to the office and we'll meet." And so I go over there, and I mean, I was like, I felt like I was in a movie, you know. Like
Yeah, he
I
was old school. He was like he was a Hollywood legend,
So
that
old
dude.
school, such a legend. I come in, and his assistant brings me into his office, which is like huge and
Yeah.
long, and there's like a little round table, and no one's in there.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Oh, sit over here." She's like, "Can I get you an espresso?" I was like, I'll take an espresso." And from the other side of the room, there was like a door, and like he opens the door, and it was like God was coming in, and I'm sitting there with this legend, and it was like really fun and exciting, and we ended up doing a bunch of work with them. But the real story was AV Squad. I mean, they became my number one vendor, and they were, you know, I think a big part of being a good executive at a network is knowing who to call.
Yeah, you're as good as the people that you're collaborating with. That's for sure. Um, and so that's it's a good point. So first of all, I got to ask you about Bob and Lou. So Bob and Lou also legends.
Yeah.
They could be tough too, though. I mean, they weren't they the ones that launched the WB? Am I remembering that right?
Yep. Yep.
And but they were hitched to each other across like they're
Totally hitched with each totally hitched with each other, totally legendary. I mean, all of the stories were true.
yeah.
I went to work for them, and I just, it was tough. But when I was done working for them, I literally thought to myself, I can do anything. Like
Mm,
there's nothing that could break me now. Like
yeah.
I'm tough. Like not everybody made it, not
Yeah.
everybody made it out of there alive. But I did. I made it, and I left on my own, you
Yeah, you
know.
had a good run. It's like it took you about as long as most people take to get their master's degree. That was your run at Lifetime, which in a lot of ways that was your postgraduate education in the business. A lot of people are either on the studio side or network side, or they're on the agency side, but they don't get to experience both from inside.
That was definitely my master's degree. When I was working at Alchemy, I thought to myself, this is what I want to do with my life. Like
Mm,
I want to work for an agency. And well, I mean, I wanted to own an agency. I always knew that ever since I saw Seiniger. I was like, I want to own an agency someday. but yeah, I mean, it didn't happen overnight, and working for those guys was a great education. It was a great education, and A&E came in, they bought Lifetime, and everything was really weird. Everybody was like, oh my God, like they're going to
Mm,
do the whole thing to New York. And so I started looking for a job, and I knew that I wanted to go back to the agency side. So I called Skip, and I was like, "Are you interested in bringing me in?" And he was like, "Yeah, I
mm,
want to bring you in." So he made me an offer, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do. Like I
yeah.
knew that's what I wanted to do, and I went back to my new boss at Lifetime because Bob and Lew were moved out, and they brought in someone from an A&E to run the whole thing. And I went to him and I said, "Hey, I got another offer, and I'm going to leave, and I really appreciate being in here." And he was like, "Wait, I don't want you to leave." He's like, give me a couple of days to make you an offer."
Okay.
And I was like, well, I'd already made up my mind, and I really wanted to go to the agency side, but I did like the new regime. Like I enjoyed working for them. And so I said, okay, sure. So I waited, and it was a couple days turned into a week. And then all of a sudden one day they said, we're having a all hands meeting in the conference room, with the entire department. It was like 75 people, and they basically just said, "Hey, we're moving to New York,
Oh,
and some of you will get a severance package, some of you will be asked to move to New York, and a few of you will ask to stay here in LA and run a small team in LA." And they gave everybody a room number and a time. So I go to my room number at the time that I'm supposed to be there, and there's like five other people in the room. And they said, "You guys are the crew that we want to stay here in LA." And they offered me the job to like run the team here in LA.
oh, wow.
And, I said, I can't do it. I gotta go. I gotta go see if I can make this thing work. And I really hope that you guys will come and be my client.
Mm.
And my boss, this guy, Tim Nolan, who's like one of my mentors, one of the best guys I've ever worked for, he was just sort of like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, sure. And I was like, okay, you
Oh
know,
man, that's tough. Especially tough in the moment to make a call like that. Um, Yeah, a lot of folks don't know how to navigate moments like that. Like they think this industry is different than other industries where, getting leverage and, just thinking just in terms of dollars and approaching it like everybody's a used car salesman kind of a thing. I don't know. For some reason, it just doesn't work in this industry. But being pretty straight up with people, at least the people that you want to work with, it seems to be always the best, the best default, right?
absolutely. I mean, have you read Reed Hastings' book, No Rules
Yeah,
Rules?
yeah,
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 I mean, one of his thing is like brutal honesty, and I think that that's the way to go. I mean, just be honest, and good things will happen most of the time, I think.
yeah. The
And
one that the one that I like, the book that I like is oh gosh, I forget his Ed Catmull. Ed Catmull, one of the founders of Pixar, wrote Creativity Inc. I think that's the one where they talk about radical candor or loving candor, radical candor, loving candor, something like
Radical
that.
Candor is No Rules Rules. I don't know about, I haven't read the other book.
Okay. Yeah, but Catmull talks a lot about that too, where, you have to be candid with people, but without being a dick. Find a
Yes.
way to do it without, because actually a partner of mine in another business endeavor that I have, he says I deal really well with the truth. But if you don't tell me the truth, I can't. I don't have anything to work with. Before we move on, I wanted to tell you about something else that's important. Money. Specifically your money. In all seriousness, I wanted to tell you about my advisor and my friend, George Meza. George runs Meza Wealth Management. And with George, it's not just about money, it's about helping us manage our present and plan for our future. And unlike a lot of other firms out there, George and I actually have a relationship. He knows me, he knows my family, and I know his wonderful family. I also know his firm and the incredible team he's put together, from his chief investment officer to some of the other great people in his office, like Jessica, their head of operations, that are always there to help me and with all aspects of our portfolio. You see, the thing is, I got a lot going on. I guess we all got a lot going on, and I don't have the time to watch our investments all day, every day. And even if I did, I don't have the experience and expertise that George's team collectively has. So we get the entire Mesa Wealth Management team, all their expertise and all their integrity. And again, it's based on George knowing me personally, knowing my goals, and even the kind of risk that's appropriate for me to take, which, by the way, could change from one season to the next. And they're on top of all of that. So if you want George Mesa and Mesa Wealth Management to be on your team, just visit their website, mesawealth.com. That's MEZA wealth.com, www.mesawealth.com. And that will also be in our show notes, so you can check that. I wanted to ask you about the decision to go to AV Squad, because in a way, that was your first entrepreneurial experience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So, things went really well for me at Skip. Tim did come and be my client, and that Lifetime was a huge client of mine. They gave us a ton of work. I had other relationships that I was able to bring in, and we were doing a lot, but I just wasn't quite, I wasn't quite where I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had worked so much with AV Squad. Oh, here's what happened.
Yeah.
Seth Seth called me up one day and was like, "Hey, can you come over here? I have something for you." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean? Like you?" So
Like a
so
turkey for thing. What are we
yeah,
talking about?
exactly. And they had just moved into the new Sunset building, and I went over there and I was so impressed with the building.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with the building and the office space and the whole vibe and everything. And I went in there and he was like, "Hey, I bought you this Pro Max trophy for this campaign that we won a gold for." And I was like totally blown away that like I work for a competitor. I used to be their client, but like now I work for a competitor, and he went ahead and bought me this trophy, and I was really touched. And I just saw what they had going over there, and I was like, man, I want to be a part of that.
Mm.
So shortly after that, I called Seth and said, "Hey, I'm interested in moving. Do you guys want to bring me in?" And I met him and Chad over at the Brentwood Farmers Market, and we had some rotisserie chicken and French fries. And we talked about me coming over there, and we did it, and Seth said to me, "Would you rather?" Because I had been doing theatrical at Skip, which was really exciting, but my background was all television to that point. And he said, do you want to continue working in theatrical? Do you want to do some theatrical and you can do some television, or do you want to start a broadcast division here? And I love a challenge.
Mm.
I said, let's start a broadcast division and see if we can do it. And it was terrifying. It
How
was,
how were you able to do that? Because I mean, you had the experience at Lifetime, you know, but it requires casting a pretty big net to really build what you were able
yeah.
to build at AV Squad.
Well, so I'm super fortunate because I had a father in the industry who was fairly successful, and he told me, he said, the most important thing that you're going to do in your career is build relationships.
Mm.
Obviously the creative has to be fucking incredible,
Yeah.
but the relationships are the most important thing. And literally from day one, from Fox Sports, from 1996, from day one, everybody who I came in contact with, I tried to be good to them. I tried to relate to them. And I love people too. So like,
I hate people. I'm
people,
just
I mean,
kidding.
I do have a love hate. I will say it's a little bit of a love hate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just met so many people. And when I got over to Skip, like I said, I was super fortunate that Lifetime stuck with me. Anthony was giving me work, Tim Nolan was giving me work. And then I just called all the people that I had known over the years that had gone to different places, because a lot of the people from Lifetime ended up going to other
Other
networks.
places. Yeah.
So I would just call them up and just be like, "Hey, will you throw us a project?" And we got things rolling. So I was like, "Okay, I can do this." And I had, a very good amount of billing my first year there.
You also had good talent, man. Like AV Squad.
Great.
I was thinking about should I make a joke and say they're a bunch of dicks and their work sucks, but like I can't pull that off. No, you had some, and then like I mean, you had freaking Gonzo working coming up with you, man. You had some fucking legends that you brought up over there.
Yeah, talk about being in awe of all those guys, you know. When I got to AV Squad, I was like, oh my God, these guys are on another level. You know, Skip is an incredible editor
Yeah.
but like he's one person.
You
There
know, every bay that you walk into.
every fucking bay. It was like, wow, you know, the thing is, the funny thing is like when I first got there, I didn't have much work. Like I at Skip immediately I had work. And like because I had just come from the network and I had these people who really loved me and were supporting me. But when I got to AV Squad, like it took a little while.
Yeah.
And like after like 3 months, I was like, I'm gonna get fired. Like I'm not gonna make it here. Like this is, they brought me in to like build this thing and I'm not doing shit. And then, I know you've interviewed Scott Edwards. I know you know him. He like calmed me down and he was like, you know what? He's like, just relax. He's like, enjoy the calm before the storm. And I was like, God, I hope he's right.
The
And he was
thing that
right.
the
He was
irony
right.
is too that I think clients can pick up on the phrase I've heard is sweaty. You know, when somebody's getting desperate, it just feels sweaty.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I never try and put out like desperate vibes ever, but
But
like
Scott Edwards is Mr. Cool, so he never gives off those sweaty vibes.
no, he's fucking yeah, yeah. He's really cool, and he calmed me down. He calmed me down, and sure enough, like because I cast a wide net, and then sure enough, it was just one after another, and then after 2 years of being at AV Squad, Seth and Chad pulled me in, and they were like, "Hey, we don't have enough room to keep doing this. Do you want to get another building to put broadcast in?" And I was like, "Sure, let's do it."
That's the 8,000 building.
That's the 8,000 building, but we were in a tiny little we were in a little building off of Casile in
Oh,
Hollywood
oh,
for
that's right. That's
nine
the
months or a
building
year.
that Buddha was in first.
Yes,
Before they moved to the Sycamore building, which was
yes,
before they moved to the Ivar building, which was before they moved to your building.
yes. And it was like, it was like Animal House. We were having so much freaking fun.
Yeah,
We were having so much fun and we had all this success and it just like it felt like college. Like we were all having a blast doing all this cool stuff. And then we moved into 8,000 and 8,000 was like beautiful and
yeah,
very like glossy and we had a hell of a run. We had an incredible run.
that's awesome. So talk about take stepping out on faith, man, or scary shit like starting your own company. Like, so what prompted you? Was it something you always wanted to do? Like, just proving to yourself you could build a whole department. Was it just clear that having your own company was just the next viable step?
Yeah, I was 42 years old and it was my dream. It's what I had always wanted from day one. And but I never wanted to do it until I felt I was ready.
Mm,
And after I had built what I built at AV Squad, I felt like I can do this on my own,
mm,
you
okay.
know? And you know, I took counsel from a bunch of friends in the industry and asked them what they thought I should do, and they all said do it. They
Mm.
said, what's stopping you? Do it.
What was so a lot of guys I know who started their own companies, especially creatives, they say it's like, if I have to build, write another HR manual, to deal with payroll, accounting, spreadsheets, I just no, I just don't want to do it. Was that the hardest part for you, or was it something else?
Yeah, I just took Reed Hastings' advice. I just surrounded myself with all stars.
Mm,
I have a CFO. She does, she takes care of all the money. She wrote the handbook. It's like I think if you just surround yourself with super great people, it makes it a lot easier and a lot less scary. And I'm
yeah.
and like Seth Gavin, I'm not a business person. I'm a creative person. So, y- you know, you just have to find the right people for the right roles and build that team
Yeah.
of all stars.
So the work that I see you guys doing, it makes sense that you have a background in theatrical because I don't think like down Cemetery Road, I don't think most other broadcast heavy shops could pull
Yeah.
work like that off. Is that so? That's gotta be part of what tell me about that. Is that kind
Okay.
of informing how you approach the
So
work?
stepping back one notch,
Sure,
when I left AV Squad, actually, let me step back even further. So
sure.
we were having all this success at AV Squad, and I needed help. So I went to Chad and I said, "Hey, I need like a producer. I need somebody to come in and help me with the creative, help me, get all of this work done." And there was this guy in the coordinator room named Nick Shakarian,
Okay.
and he said, "I want Nick to come and be your producer." And I was like, "Nick is, he's doing post-production. I need like a creative producer." And he's like, "Just trust me. Just give him a chance." And I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll give him a chance." And he came over and I was just like, "Hey, like just, sit in my office and, listen to me on the phone and we'll sit in the bay and you can listen to me talk to the editors." And he was so like he just sponged it up so well.
Hmm.
And after like 9 months of just sitting, we shared an office at
Okay.
Casino. And after 9 months of him sitting in my office, he just started doing it on his own. And then eventually he came to me and he was like, "Hey, I think I want to edit too." And I was like, "Dude, we have so much work. Like, why do you want to edit? Like, I need you in the bay working with the editors."
Yeah.
And he didn't listen to me. And like overnight, he cut this spot and he brought it to me. And I was like, "Oh my God, you're a great editor." So he started editing and producing. And then we left together. He's my partner. He cut the Down Cemetery Road trailer. He learned from the best. He learned from Solomon and Krupka and Gonzo and all these legends.
Wow.
And we brought that here. That's what we offer our clients. We're like
So
this small little elite unit that comes in and knocks it out.
that
You know,
makes sense. That makes sense that you and Nick both have a theatrical sensibility that I remember. I mean, this is actually so I'll tell you a quick story. So when Seth was kind of formulating the idea that eventually became AV Squad, we went and visited Lucier. Lynn Lucier was still active in the business. Um, and they had like a whole floor that was opening up. I don't know if it was because Stu Weiss was downstairs and he left. I forget but they had like a whole floor that was opening up, or a half of a floor that was opening up. And we went over there, and the pitch was they want to be able to offer theatrical level work to their broadcast clients, which Seth was going to kind of build out, but then start bringing over theatrical clients. But they didn't bite on it. And to this day, they're like, "Oh man, we could have been AV Squad." But that has always been so that's what, 20 years or something. That has always been the the missing link, but you guys have it. You guys have, because you came from theatrical. You offer that theatrical level work to your broadcast and now streaming clients. And frankly, now the way the business has evolved, I don't think you could do streaming without a theatrical sensibility.
absolutely not. I mean,
Yeah.
AV Squad we were the first ones to do broadcast, and then everybody was doing
Yeah.
broadcast. Everybody, because no one wanted to do broadcast. Everyone was like, like the broadcast was like the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to do theatrical. Everybody wanted to do the sexy, Spider-Man and fucking Star Wars or whatever. But I embraced it, and exactly like when I got to Skip, I was like, we are gonna do theatrical level stuff for Lifetime.
Yeah.
And we did. Like we made their shows and movies look incredible. Way, way, way bigger and more heightened than ever before. And then we carried that through AV Squad, obviously, and that's what we do here, you
That's
know.
awesome. That's awesome. So we went a little long on your trajectory, but I thought it was important because you've worn, like I said, you wore so many hats even in your early days, design and editorial and producing and write, like all these things, but also broadcast, theatrical, agency side, studio side. So that's really informative for folks. It's a much more well-rounded career than a lot of folks have. Now, there's just a few pieces I want to ask you about at the shop. You mentioned Cemetery Road. Um, one of the pieces I really enjoyed was Last Dance, but you're particularly well suited to do that piece. It's like, let me at it, baby. Right?
That was a dream come true. That was an absolute dream come true. When I first started the shop, Scott Edwards introduced me to Seth Ader, who's the creative lead at ESPN, and we hit it off, and he gave us a 30 for 30 to do, and then that snowballed into we did like every 30 for 30 for years.
Wow.
And right before the pandemic hit, he came to me and he's like, "We're doing The Last Dance." And I like almost started crying. I was so excited, because, I'm a Lakers guy, I'm a Lakers fan, but like I enjoyed the entire Michael Jordan era. And,
Yeah.
up to that point, like you didn't know much about Mike. Like he didn't do much. He didn't
Yeah.
do a lot of interviews. He didn't do a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So, I mean, that was a dream come true. And it also like it got Seth and I through the pandemic.
Oh,
Like
wow.
we were just like every day was like joyous, even though we were locked in our house and we couldn't go anywhere. We were just so excited because we were making, we made like 100 trailers,
Wow.
like we made all these trailers and we did every single episode. And I mean, that was incredible. That was so much fun.
So another sports thing that you did was the countdown. But I got to say, man, did
Yeah.
did you ever end up watching the fight?
Yeah, I watched the fight.
So the
I
best part
watched
of
the
the
fight.
the best part of the fight wasn't the fight. It was absolutely the countdown.
Yeah, it was definitely the countdown. The fight was a little ridiculous. But yeah, no, I mean, when Nick and I started the shop, we said to ourselves, we want to work with Netflix. Like that was our North Star. And
Okay.
we and The Last Dance actually got us in with them. And because it aired on ESPN and then it aired on Netflix. So
Oh,
Netflix folks were kind enough to ask ESPN who had cut it, and they called us, and then we worked on that for ESPN, and that led to other sports work, and we worked on Tyson-Paul Countdown. It was really, really fun.
so how different is it working with Netflix or Hulu is another streamer that you've worked with versus the traditional network because you work a lot with ABC. How different is it working with the traditional broadcast networks versus the streamers?
I mean, it's pretty similar. It's pretty similar. The process is pretty similar. I mean, for years, I feel like, everything is like double and triple vended, and you just have to give it your absolute best.
Mm.
And that's what we do. Like I try and over deliver every single time and get the repeat business.
Has the nature, in your experience, has the nature of the work itself changed a lot? Because kind of big picture, the business for ABC and the networks has changed a lot. You've been at the shop now for almost a decade, so even just in that time, their business has changed. How much of it has it changed for you?
Not a ton. I mean,
Okay,
the work is the work.
yeah,
A lot of it is for digital now. Not all of it, sees the air. But it's the same work. It's trailers and TV spots and campaigns.
yeah. So it's interesting you mentioned that because I have to admit a couple of my favorite pieces were 15s. The 15 you made for Succession, the 15 you made for Chernobyl.
So fun.
Well, so the thing is, both like in 15 seconds, you captured an essence. And so I got to imagine in some ways that's harder than when you got 2.5 minutes to flesh something out.
Yes, and I think part of that is the team. They're so passionate. They watch everything. Like they're watching, I mean, they watch every single show. They're so familiar with all of the material that they knew. They were like, "Oh, we're making a Tomlet spot."
Oh
Like
man,
that was fucking hilarious, right? So,
I was wondering that because you what was the piece out the ABC piece I think it was or maybe it was a Hulu show that I was watching and it was like for season 5 I'm like did they watch every episode of every season? But there's no replacement for that, is there?
you know what? We're TV nerds. We love it. We consume a lot. I mean, the other thing is like I have like crazy ADHD. I have to be like doing something all the time. So TV like calms me down,
Interesting.
and everybody here is kind of the same. They just like they consume all the TV shows. Like we talk like every morning, we start the morning by what did we watch last night? Like we all talk about every show that we're watching, and you know, it's the water cooler talk every day.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
And that leads
Um,
and that leads to great work.
oh man. I love it. I love it. And it's such a broad array, from 15s to trailers, from sports to theatrical work. So it's really remarkable what you've built at the shop. So you did mention, what got you through Chernobyl. We've been through so much, man. Um, uh, Wait, what did I just say? What got you through pandemic? I said
Pandemic.
Chernobyl.
Pandemic. It is, yeah, almost as
'Cause,
bad as Chernobyl. Almost.
um, but I mean, we have been through pandemic and double strikes and fires
Yeah,
last year.
crazy.
What has it been for you? Is it just the work? It sounds like you just love the work and the people that you're working with. What has
Yeah.
it been that help get you through it all?
Well, my mother is a psychiatrist, so that helps. Um, no, I mean, it's definitely the people, during the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, back then I was watching way too much news and I knew I could see it coming. So I got everybody set up at home. And like when the pandemic hit, we were ready to go. Like I think we were ready before a lot of other people. And that really helped us because I think we got a lot of work like immediately because we were totally ready to go. But even so, it was still like it was scary. And my main focus was like, I don't know what's going on in the world, but I don't want any of my people to lose their jobs because it's such a scary time. So I really focused on like, how can I just keep everybody employed? And, you know, it's like, I'm 3 years into this thing, and all of a sudden there's a global pandemic, once in 100-year pandemic. And yeah, I don't know. I really don't know how we got through that, but we got through it. And then on the other side, it like things opened up a lot, and then there were the strikes. And so I mean, it's a grind. I mean, my dad told me not to do it. He said, don't do it, and but I wouldn't want to do anything else, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, in some ways, there are moments where you just got to take it one day at a time. I remember when things first shut down, I'm like, we'll be shut down for like a week, maybe two, and just then 2 weeks passes, like, oh, we're not opening up anytime soon. And so it was just one day at a time, just like get through today. And then you learn about things like the EIDL and, these other things. It just, yeah. And then actually, speaking of Dawn Bailey, Dawn and I started collaborating. That's when we put the alliance together because we knew a lot of people were really hurting at that time. And, we had these grand ideas for all, but at the end of the day, it just ended up being, you know what? Let's just raise some money so that we can get Trader Joe's cards to folks because a lot of people were just losing their jobs, and didn't know how they were going to eat, if they were going to pay rent. So yeah, we helped do a bunch of things. It was mostly Dawn. Like Dawn was just so resourceful, and everybody respects her so much. And so like sometimes it was helping somebody set up. They had freelance opportunities, but they needed to be able to have a work from home setup, but they didn't have a job, so they couldn't buy a desk. So
Yeah.
sometimes it was just something as practical as that. Anyway, yeah, just getting through it together was really helpful, and one day at a time, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
Um,
as soon as we got vaccinated, I was like, well, let's go back to the office. Let's like, let's go back to normal. And we kind of did. We did, and things were very normal. Things were very normal, and I was trying to figure out like what exactly to do, and like, do we need to should we be in the office? Should we not be in the office? And things have changed so much. Like you don't have to be in the office every single day, and we're not like we're very hybrid, but like you know, eh, when I worked at AV Squad, I was like, I love being here.
yeah,
I love coming to where I love, I go downstairs and play some pool and like, and like there's always snacks and so I tried to bring that here, like we have a ping pong table and I bring in all the snacks and it's like I enjoy the camaraderie,
yeah,
I
that's
also,
awesome.
but I also want to give people freedom. I want to give people the freedom to like be themselves and make decisions for themselves
Yeah,
and so it's good.
yeah, that's awesome. All right, so I got some fun questions, and we'll start to wrap it up.
Okay.
Favorite piece of creative advertising, not necessarily, it could be your own if if you're that kind of guy, but favorite piece of creative advertising, it could be TV, it could be film, it could be print, it could be digital, it could be anything. What's some of your favorite that comes to mind?
Oh man, God, there's so much nowadays. It's like, um, Maybe the Prometheus trailer. That was so incredible to
Yeah.
be part of that, and the way that Skip did the title sequence and just being a part of that, and that was really exciting. And also, and The Last Dance. That was my favorite thing ever. That was my favorite thing. We worked on the Hulu documentary Lakers Legacy, which was sort of dropped at the wrong time when the Lakers were kind of down in the dumps. But like that was really fun for me too, working on Lake Show.
Yeah. Yeah, Last Dance stuff. Were you able to see material that didn't make it into any of the episodes?
No,
Oh
no.
man, I would
We
have
only
loved to
got
have
the
seen some of
episode.
those, takes that didn't make the cut, especially because you're right, like MJ didn't reveal a lot during his playing days, so seeing him, that unfiltered was just, man, what a treat, to get inside that guy's head for a little while. That was cool.
So much,
All
so
right,
much.
so go ahead. Did
No,
I
I was
cut?
just saying that was really fun.
Yeah. All right. So if you're talking to the 20 nothing year old version of yourself
Hmm.
and imparting wisdom as to what will uh, give that young, smart, creative person a good chance at not just success, but like a really enriching career, what's some of the advice you'd give that guy?
Well, I mean, I would always tell young people to go after their dream. Whatever it is you want in life, go for it and don't let anything stop you. Go after it 1,000%. Don't let anybody deter you. Whatever you want to do in life, you can do it. You just have to put your mind to it. I would also tell anybody that wants to go into our industry to, try and work on both sides of the industry. Try and be a client. Try and be on the agency side, because I feel like when you are a client and then you go to the vendor side, you know what you wanted as a client. Like when I went into the boardroom with Bob and Lew, those fucking spots better have been great, because if they weren't, then they were just gonna fucking chew
Yeah.
you and spit you out.
Yeah.
So, try and do both if you can. Try and get on both sides of the business because it'll give you both perspectives. And I think that's important. It's
Yeah.
not it's not the end all, but I do think it's important.
Um,
Have a great mentor. Find somebody that's willing to take you under their wing, like Ed Glass took me under his wing. And, find someone like that who's willing to show you the ropes and introduce you to their clients and show you how to do it. And then pay attention when you're in the edit bay.
yeah.
When you're in the edit bay with these genius guys, like pay attention, you know, learn and soak it all in.
Yeah.
Be humble.
Um, no, that's a good word, man. That's a good word. And you certainly had some great mentors. Took a bunch of
Yes.
leaps. So yeah, it seems like you took your own advice. You gave yourself advice and took it. What about where you see things going? You kind of touched on digital, um, you know, but the work, I guess the work is still the work. But do you see things evolving significantly differently here over the next year, 3 years, 5 years?
I mean, it's hard to say with AI. I'm not 100% sure. But I've been talking to a lot of people throughout the industry, and every I think everyone's sort of wondering where we're going and what's going to happen. But um, we're just going to keep grinding, man.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so I did tell you in advance that you get to do this. You get to turn the tables on me. Do you have any questions for me?
Why did you call all my editors and try and steal? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Actually, I don't think I don't think I've done that.
You know what? You have, but I'll tell you what. I don't mind. I don't mind. I think earlier in my career I was less secure, but it's part of the industry, you know.
Yeah, so I we might have talked about this because I remember that we had some tension between us, and maybe that's what it was about. That I did call somebody. I can't remember it. Like whatever. But
Okay, no, I have a good response for this.
yeah,
So I want to go back to Reed Hastings' book for a minute.
yeah,
Um, he would tell his employees if a headhunter came after them to not only tell him, but if they had gotten any information about any salary information, to let them know so that they could build a book and know exactly what the going rate is for every job. So that's how I feel now.
Yeah.
Like I don't mind if a headhunter calls and tries to entice my editor. I want to know. I want to know if they called, and I want to know if they gave them any salary information for any job, because I want to know. I want to know what the going rate is for everybody.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good approach. And uh, it just depends on the person on the other side. It depends on the headhunter themselves. I know with me, I always had a couple rules. One is if the person's under contract, I don't try to break them out of a contract. And two is, and this is what helped me. This is why I was always able to go in front of guys like Bob Farina or Smitty or, tough guys, who had these reputations. Because if somebody said, "Hey, man, I'm really happy where I'm at," I respected that. I didn't see it as my job to convince them
Yeah.
otherwise. But the money thing, yeah, that's so. When people do call me, I have I have pretty good knowledge of what the market is. I pretty much know what everybody makes. But I don't like something you were saying before about just being candid, just being straight up. It's
Yeah.
like I'm not going to tell you, if you're making, I don't know, for simplicity's sake, 100. I'm not going to tell you I could get you 150 or 200. I'm going to tell you what your actual fucking market rate is. Because
Yeah.
it's not an actual number. It's usually within a range. So I'll give you the range of what you're. It's usually pretty quantifiable.
Yeah.
By the way, so if I was giving you advice when you were going to AV Squad, my advice would have been be conservative going in because it'll give you a much longer runway. Whereas I've known other people who got a position like that to start a division, came in guns blazing, a month goes by, 2 months goes by, but they negotiated for a premium for themselves.
Yeah.
And then 60 days in, 90 days in, they're paying like whatever it is, a 25, 50% premium on the guarantee. And that person just hung themselves.
Dude, I put so much fucking pressure on myself because of how much money I was making. And that's why I thought I was dead. That's
Mm,
why I thought I was going to get fired. But thankfully, things started happening for me, and the rest is history. But
yeah.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Any other questions for me? Is that all you got?
Oh, that's it. That's it. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. And I mean, you're
Well, but
just
let's.
you're
So
a
how
legend, man.
if the today's equivalent of Bob and Lew are listening, I want to make sure folks can find the shop. How can folks find you and all the great work that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, go to theshoptrailers.com. You can see all our work. You can get our contact info. Give us a call. We're
That's
ready.
awesome. Yeah. And
Ready
that'll
for
be
it.
in the show notes. So we'll make sure that you can check it out. There's some good, it's just fun. Even if you're, you're an editor or, an up and coming creative, it's really cool to like kind of go on there and check out some of the work. There's some good stuff and it's a wide range of stuff too. So I enjoyed digging in a little bit. So, and this was good, man. We'll have to do it in person. You
Yeah,
were all ready to go to the
I
studio and
wanted to
stuff.
see you, man. I wanted to see. I don't think I've seen. I mean, I haven't seen you since maybe like
A Pro Max or something like
I
that,
don't
or
know. I think it was an AV Squad Christmas party or
something
something.
like that. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
That's too long. We got to go grab drinks or something like
I would
that, man.
love that, man. I would love it.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, well, thank you for doing this, and thank you all for listening. As always, make sure you rate us and review us and do all the things. It really does help us in the rankings. A lot of folks are listening and learning a lot about careers and about approaches to the work and just wisdom about careers, and just it's good stuff. So really appreciate that. You could follow me on all the socials. I'm at Corey S. Nathan, Corey S. as in Sam, Nathan. And check out our awesome sponsors too, the Golden Trailer Awards and Mesa Wealth Management. Really grateful to everybody for helping out. And thanks for joining us. Now go do some inspired work.
Thanks, man.